Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about preterite versus imperfect tenses and how to differentiate between the two as well as use them when speaking about past tense. So by now we know that there's two past tense uses in Spanish, and the preterite, which we learned about in some previous chapters, is basically a verb conjugation or tense that's used to explain an action that's already occurred. So I like to think of the preterite as kind of a completed tense. It's talking about an action that is no longer happening or ongoing. So an example of this would be when you want to say something like, I worked yesterday. So it would be trabajé ayer. But the imperfect tense is a little bit different in that it's a past tense used to talk about actions that are still possibly in progress or continuous background actions. Sometimes it's used to talk about emotional states. So if you were to use the same basic sentence but change the verb tense into the imperfect, what you would instead be saying is, I was working yesterday or I used to work yesterday, instead of a completed action like I worked yesterday. So the first thing we kind of need to go over to know about how to tell the difference between the two and use the two differently is of course, separate verb conjugations and endings for not only AR verbs, but IR and ER verbs as well. So for preterite, a basic AR and conjugation, the regular conjugation for preterite, you have the E with the accent for yo, so yo trabajé, I worked. For two, you have trabajaste, you worked. For él or il, trabajo, he, she, or it worked. Nosotros trabajamos, so we worked. And again, that's the same as the present tense AR conjugation. So that's one where you look at kind of the surrounding words to understand if it's a past or current action. Ustedes trabajasteis and ellos, ellas trabajarán. Now, let's look at how imperfect AR conjugation works. So we have we still have the same stem, but instead of the E with the accent in the yo, we have aba, and two is abas. Il is aba again. So one thing to know with both the first person singular and third person singular of the imperfect tense is that they are frequently the same, which is nice. Nosotros trabajamos. So there's always usually an accent here, this A. Ustedes trabajabéis, and ellos, ellas trabajaban. So this is the AR conjugation. Let's now look at the ER, IR conjugation. So again, to remember the preterite of the ER conjugations, we have comer here, which means to eat. We have yo comí, tú comiste, él comió, nosotros comimos, ustedes comisteis, ellos, ellas comirán. Now let's look at the imperfect ER-IR conjugation, which there is no difference between the two, which is again nice. You have yo comía. You still have that accent, but you have an A basically after it. Tú comías, él comía, again, same as the first person singular. Nosotros comíamos, ustedes comíais, and ellos, ellas comían. So in the imperfect, there's really only three verbs that are irregular, which is really nice. And those are ser, ir, and ver. So those are just ones that you're going to have to memorize the conjugation for. So for ser, it really takes the form of era. Here is kind of the root. And then it follows the same kind of pattern. So you have eras, era again, same as the yo. Nosotros éramos, eres, eran. For ir, to go, the imperfect is iba, ibas, iba, ibamos, ibes, iban. And for ver, to see, you have via, vias, via, viamos, viais, vian. So that being said, with going through all the conjugations, let's now do some examples and kind of talk about why they use the imperfect or the preterite tense. So the first one is de niño me gustar jugar con manucas. So this is using either gusto, which is the preterite form of gustar, or gustaba. So based on what this sentence is talking about and how it's an ongoing, I guess I would say it's an ongoing talking about liking something. I used to like playing. I'm going to say that this is gustaba. It's imperfect because it's not ending. It's not a completed action. Let's look at another here. Los indios precolombinos tocar instrumentos de cuerda. Okay, so this one, tocar, to play, tocaran versus tocaban. Again, it's not a completed action. It's talking about how pre-Columbian Indians played instruments. So I'm going to again say that it's imperfect. So we should use tocaban instead of tocaran. In this one, siempre yo estudiar antes de los exámenes de la clase de español. So this one is talking about, I always studied before examens for Spanish class. So estudi versus estudiaba. When it's a habitual action of the past, that's another time that you're going to use the imperfect tense. So we're going to say estudiaba. And the last one, yo graduarse ayer. I graduated yesterday. This one is interesting because it's talking about a completed action, so that's preterite, and just naturally graduarse is a preterite tense because it's completed, and so you're going to say me gradué. So I hope that this video helped kind of give some clarification on imperfect versus preterite and uses for each, and good luck studying.